Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be. Super compact and bijou this evening so far. First off, I'm going to say thanks very much to MacVision 3D, 10 euros to keep the wheels greased. That will indeed go very far. Thank you very much indeed. I'm joined, so it's just me and Jonty at the moment, and Jonty and I have been chatting. Jonty is the Lake Victoria Challenge, what are we going to call you? Competitions manager, Jonty.
I'm in. That's what exactly I am.
All right, so that's what you do, and what does that mean? So, what is the? Well, let's start at the beginning. Hello there, Phil. What is the Lake Victoria Challenge?
So, the Lake Victoria Challenge is a set of drone competitions that we're going to be running in Tanzania in November and December of this year, and it's a set of competitions to mimic certain real-life delivery options that we've been looking at around the world. And so there are three parts to the competition. There is a drop-off. So we're looking at like a postal service. So how can you have a package delivered by drones to a particular remote location or a remote island, and how can you show that can be done? Then you have the one that's a pickup. So are we going to pick up like a medical supply? Are we going to pick up like a blood test or some kind of kit or something like that? So can we pick that up? So can we have a drone come to a remote location, stop, pick up a package, and then take it back to a drone port? And then the third one is a mapping one. So can we show that a drone can go to a location, take a set of images over like 20 centimeter resolution, do that in same mapping again in a week's time or a month's time or a year's time, and then those images will then be overlaid in different ways. So we have these three different kinds of models of competition that we've come up to, and at the moment we're looking for drone system companies to participate in these three different challenges, and we have a deadline of the 25th of April for people to register for them. And then we're going to do, there's a three-stage process. So stage one is submission, just saying, hey, I've got a drone system that can do one of these three ideas. And they have to show a little video of them actually flying a drone. So we're not looking for people who are going to build their own drone. We want drones that are either commercially available at the moment or will be commercially available in the next 12, 18 months time. And so you can be using an existing drone from another company. It's just you're a service delivery organization of your own. And then the next stage will be then going through all the technical specifications with you, with your drone. Can you meet certain requirements for us? And then the final stage will be actually we're going to choose to 12 to 15 organizations to come to Tanzania. We'll pay for you to come to Tanzania with your drone system, and you'll test it. And then the winners will receive contracts that are worth over £100,000 worth of contract value to provide a service for up to 6 months in Tanzania, doing one of those services and doing minimum of like 5 flights a day, taking packages to remote areas around the Lake Victoria region. So I'm brought in, so I'm part of the team that's managing these competitions now. So we've done a test flight, and Gary was there in Tanzania in October we did a test process where we tested, could we actually even do part of this competition? And then now we're in the process of speaking to organizations and drone systems in China and Switzerland and the US, and we're working with Africa Drones to make sure that it actually is Africa capable, and we're going to be looking at recruiting drone pilots in Africa and creating a whole process out there. So I mean, the process, yeah, it is going to be tough. I have to say it's going to be an interesting experience to do this, but what we're trying to do is, and also we have the complication where we're going to do it in Class D airspace. So we're not going to do it in completely unrestricted airspace. We're going to try to do this within a Class D airspace with a airport nearby, and how that's going to be managed. So we're not trying to do this as like a test bed in a remote location. We're actually trying to make it more realistic, and actually trying to look at it different from what Uber's trying to do with urban drone systems or something like this, and trying to put it straight into the urban environment. We're trying to go and say, can you do test beds in different parts of the world? Can we prove this model? And we're not just going to run it like a random challenge. We're actually trying to compete and trying to show people. And this isn't about procurement. This is trying to show the best in the world that actually Africa's ready to, well, part of the tagline is Africa Rising, is showing that Africa that can be leading on this, and we're not trying to deal with all of the problems. So we're dealing with all the complications of UTMs at the moment and safety systems and all this kind of stuff. But it's something that we've really been thinking about for quite a while, and there's quite a big team now that's building around the Lake Victoria Challenge. There's other UNICEF are now on board, UKA, DFID is now on board. The World Bank has been leading this for a large number of years now already. And we've been looking at it from how these competitions will actually stimulate drone usage around the world. When you speak to organizations, yeah, Gary, go ahead, Gary.
No. I was just saying, first I'm going to say good evening to you there, Ian. We'll come back to you in a minute. We'll talk about Herelink. And that's really what I wanted to do. But I wanted to, when you say there's an airport nearby, if you go to the bar at the hotel where the launch site is, you can see the control tower in the end of the runway. So David wasn't so keen. I was very keen that actually UTM and traffic management should be done from the bar there. For some reason, he didn't agree. I'm not quite sure why he didn't agree with me there.
I think alcohol and safety is not something that David thinks should be mixing directly.
and the flight, the task, it's to try and give you guys an idea. It's a hotel on a beach on a lake, Lake Victoria. Lake Victoria is, what's the tagline? It's the most populous rural area on earth. Imagine it's Africa, it's all dusty and dirt everywhere else. You're going to live next to a lake. So 30 million people actually live around the lake. So you there's a few people, and just one of the islands, the island that Wingtra actually flew to successfully, is 22 kilometers away over the water. So obviously that's not a big distance for a lot of people. But it is when it's over water. It's concentrated.
But Gary, the interesting thing is, if the people wanted to get a task, so if they wanted to deliver a postal item to Juma Island, which is where most of our traffic is actually going to be going to, which you're talking about, it takes 2 days by road and ferry to get an item to that island. It's a 25-minute, 30-minute flight if we can use a drone system to do it. There isn't an airport on the island. They can't be landing. Helicopters are too expensive. So drones are the perfect solution for a lot of these remote islands, and actually could be the way that actually solves kind of this whole problem of accessibility and service provision to these quite remote communities across the whole of these islands. And yeah, Lake Victoria has this solution to it, and could be beneficial to the communities, and that's where we're looking at it. Yeah. And
they've already been running further trials across to Ukaweri. I shouldn't have started saying that.
Ukaweri, yes.
Another island, to another island that begins with U, and that is, I think that's 80 or 90 k's away, and they've done quite a few flights back and forth to there as well. Mwanza, where the competition is based, is a hub on the south. It's basically on the south of Lake Victoria when you look at it, the map in the middle, and it's a hub for hospitals, and it's quite a big town. There's mining just down the road, so that puts a bit of cash into everyone's coffers, and that's why it's there. And yeah, they have the medical supplies there. They're going there anyway, coming into the international airport that is right that you can see from the bar, landing quite big airplanes, and then they distribute the stuff from there. So let's just go through. So there's a delivery challenge. So how much are people expected to deliver? 100 kilos, 1 kilo, 5 kilos?
So they have to start with a minimum of a kilo. So it's a kilo in a 1,000 centiliter volume space. And you can, if you can carry 4 of them, you'll get more points for the more kilo packages you can deliver. And it's each flight you take, you earn points for each flight you take. And successfully delivering those flights and undamaged. So they're going to have part of the thing will be to make sure that we have a processing it so that it'll not be able to take a certain level of damage. So we're not allowing them to drop it out of from 20 feet or something like that. It has to be able to land in a safe manner, and not with a pilot. So the other thing is that there isn't going to be a pilot on Juma Island. It has to be an automated flight. So there'll be a pilot monitoring it, but it will be an automated flight that people will have to do. So that's where we're also adding that technology thing. Also, these areas don't have a 3G connection or a 4G connection, so a constant connection. There's reasonably good mobile connectivity, but we're also having to we want to see people coming up with new ways of doing it with long-range radio or other kind of methods. So what kind of C-to-C link people are starting to come up with.
Is it going to be the same landing site on Juma?
For the drop-off, no, I don't believe, but I think the pickup maybe. So we got the drop-off competition is the first one, yeah.
Well, just because that site was actually over the radio horizon from the hotel,
and I think we are making it slightly more difficult by making it slightly over the horizon, so that people can look at it and go, actually, do I need to? Because not all the time there is going to be. We're going to have to make it slightly more difficult. This is real world scenarios, and we do want it to be people to trialing it and not going that they can just use a standard line of sight that. Okay, does a relay need to be part of this whole process? They need to come back to us and let us know what they want. We're not going to do everything, and yeah.
So if someone's considering entering, they should consider a flight over a flat body of water where you are on the water at takeoff, so right on the radio horizon, and going to a place, because 22 Ks that's going to, I haven't worked it out, but that's going to start actually being over the curve of the Earth as well.
Yeah.
But it's on the back of the island.
It's just on the end of it. Yeah, it's just on the edge of it. And so it'll depend on what people come up with as the solution. But if you're looking at what's happening, especially with around the world, not being able to cross major motorways and stuff like this with certain delivery things, we are having to look at real world scenarios, and you're not always going to be able to have direct line of sight of everything. And that means that you're going to have different control mechanisms and safety mechanisms as part of this whole process.
And it's electric VTOL, isn't it?
It is electric only, and the reason for that is because the World Bank has a commitment to being eco-friendly and clean and wanting everything in a specific way, and so we've decided to go down a complete green one. We did look at going down having hybrid models, but it got too complicated, and there wasn't a thing of how people would have a process to go completely electric, so we've defaulted to electric. So for the drop off, it's a kilo, but when you're doing the pickup, it's 250 grams. So it's a lot lighter for people to do pickup.
And when as a competition organizer, immediately in my head's thinking, what I would do, being naughty, is I would put whatever they say they could pick up 5, 10, whatever, 250 gram loads. I would shove it to the back or to the front of the aircraft or off to one side or something like that. I would load it in a fashion that the manufacturer may not enjoy. Are you considering doing things like that as well?
We're letting everybody come up with their own thing. So the goal is they have to pick up, and they can have a human load it, the 250 gram item, load it, and it can be somebody who's trained by them to load it in a particular way, as long as it arrives safely back in Wanza at the end of the flight. We don't care it is. And yes, repeater aircraft is one of the things that we're allowing people to consider if people want to put up a secondary aircraft to provide it. Yeah, and 22 kilometers each way. So yeah, there's lots of ways that people can come up to it. And the question about TCAA. So CAA certified pilots at the moment in the UK are automatically certified to fly in Tanzania, but we're giving everybody such a long lead time. So we've got the drone competition happening in November, the end of November. We will announce people are going to participate, and they've got to register by the 25th of April. by the end of July, we will have decided who our finalists are going to be. And then people then can go through the registration process of getting their drones in country into Tanzania. The big reason we've given this such a lead time is because of lithium batteries and getting them to Tanzania. You can't take them in the airplane with you, so you're going to have to ship them. So yeah.
I'll jump in on this as well for Guerrilla Drones. I was holding this up. This is the leaflet from. If like me, you've been to quite a few droney things that can be rather done on the back of a bit of A4, but this was it was all super sorted out at the last event, and the TCAA were very much a sponsor of it, and not only that, but there were 8 other regulatory authorities in the room last time, and very interested in crawling all over it. So all the countries bordering the lake and others from and around and about were all there and all interested and all very positive in how they're handling this, and quite honestly looking forward with I've not thought how to put this. Look, they were on team and looking at it all very favorably. So yeah, EV loss exemptions, everything that's everything you need to fly will definitely be in place. And so I witnessed it. Very on team.
And nearly all of us who are involved in it. So I'm a CAA certified drone pilot. I got my CAA certification a couple of months ago. For another project that I'm doing for another drone competition. And so I wanted to, I thought if I'm going to speak about drones and understand about drones, I should get my qualification. I also have my private pilot's license, so I at least understand that what's at least everybody's talking about, which sometimes doesn't have with a lot of these competitions, that people get involved and have no basis for all of this. But we're trying to do it professionally so that people can actually go and say, yes, this is a technology that works, and that we don't want drone, especially we have a problem is, and we really wanted this with the credibility for a lot of other projects, is that a lot of drone system companies don't want to get involved in something that's going to make them look bad and make them look like they're idiots. And so we wanted to give everybody as much information as possible from the very start of the whole process so that everybody could do, and we're honest, when we don't know something, we're going to say, we don't know. And it's a bit like the packages, the 1 kilo packages. We actually haven't designed them. So we're asking for input from people to go, do you want a flexible design? Do you want a fixed size? Do you want the CAD drawings of what we're going to be doing? And we're asking these questions and letting people ask these questions to us now so that we can come back and we can work with people on these. We're trying to make it English.
Richard asking about Part 107. There were some American contestants there last time, and they did fly. So I'm sure that, well, you know better than me. I don't know.
No, so I think the answer is where they are a Western qualification. Most of the Tanzania authorities are recognizing them, but if there isn't, we're looking at how easy it would be, and so we're working with the TCAA to go, okay, do people just need to arrive a couple of days beforehand and go through a quick certification process? The CAA in the UK is actually working with a team out in Tanzania at the moment to do all of that kind of stuff. So we are working, and that's what Africa Drones and others are being able to do, and setting up qualification tests. So it's something that we are looking, but it's not really about the pilots for our point of view. It's about the technology, and this is where the pilots should be extraneous. The pilots shouldn't have to intervene at all. This should be about completely autonomous flying as where it's possible.
And I should actually be wearing my African drone shirt now, because that's how I'd be going with African drone. I forgot that. I'm not very good at this sort of thing.
That's fine.
there we are. That's what I should have been doing. But yeah, what was I going to say? Oh, requirements for identification in UTM. There's no radar at the airport. A fantastic company called Involi came along and set up some ADS-B receivers last time. Hopefully Involi will be involved again.
We're hoping so. We're waiting for confirmation from them, but we will be using the same kind of tracking system is being involved. I mean, I know other people are asking for other kind of methodologies, but I think ADS-B is trusted and tested, and we know it works in the region. And what we're just looking at now is the other bandwidth that people would need for other control systems, the control mechanisms, what other in the megahertz range or UHF or something like that people are wanting to do.
Yeah, the well, I have it. If you look at my channel, you'll see, Jonty, I have a little video about I'm pretending to make a vertiport here, Vertiport Africa, in my house, and I've already published the standards I would expect for aircraft to come here, and that would be either Open Glider Network, FLARM, Airware, or ADS-B. Just because I'm going to rant at you now, just because in our world the FLARM and the modern stuff that's come up is actually a lot better than ADS-B. ADS-B is a horrible standard from the 90s that's very easy to hack, and a load of the TSO GPS fell over last weekend during the GPS issue. Anyway,
and I think the only reason that we're using that is that from my understanding, and I will clarify with the team, is for the farm stuff we need a different kind of receiver system to be provided, and so it means doubling up the infrastructure. And some of these, so that we can provide a proper relay, we need to have battery operated relay stations that are going to have to be set up. And some of these items, some of these monitoring systems, some of these receivers are quite power hungry. I know. Slightly more difficultly.
I'm just being a little bit ranty, but it's
that's fine.
But it's interesting when you start considering this, and when you start considering the area, you're talking about enabling an enormous area of coverage for whichever system's chosen, and it'll be the largest delivery. Look, I love Zipline. No offense to Zipline, but Rwanda's tiny. With the bases that Zipline have, they can reach the whole country quick. Where we're talking about now, and especially if they're, well, I'll jump ahead, but if you do go for the stretch goal of the deliveries to a core area, that's 80-kilometer round trip. Now that's starting to, that is over the curve of the Earth, and that is starting to get serious in distance, you know.
And actually, so part of the competition, and this is what Gary was saying, is you really have to do the first part, which is do it to the closer island, the 22K island. But if you can do that and you compete, then you'll be asked to go further and try to go for the further islands, and then that's going to cause people to push them, and we're going to see where people will push this. But it's £100,000 contract for the people, but also the kudos of being able to say that an independent judging team has verified you.
And that £100,000, that's for 3 months, isn't it? That contract for
up to 6 months, but initially it's a 3-month period that they have to commit to, but they can do it up to a 6-month period of service delivery contract. So providing the drop-offs or the pickup or the aerial surveys. And so we're trying to make it so that there's a cost per flight, the income that will be able to be generated. And we're trying to make it like a commercial operation, trying to mimic that whole aspect of, everybody's saying that commercial operations can be done, but we're seeing massive subsidies being completed in all of these commercial operations and can actually be done for a realistic price in Africa. And that's the question. I'm not comparing it to Amazon's deliveries in Australia.
Oh, no, not Amazon. No, that's Google. Oh, no. Amazon's a complete work of fiction, their drone delivery thing. But Google's isn't. And funnily enough, today they got the nod, didn't they, from the Australian Civil Aviation Authority to carry out further commercial work. But it's only to 100 customers, and it's all very, very short range. And there's no doubt Zipline, again, back to them, they have saved lives already. That service has saved lives with its blood delivery, and that it changes from DVDs and burritos, you know, which is somewhat frivolous. I think I saw in Wings promotional thing today that they're saying, some woman saying, you know, the expiry date had gone off my grandchildren's sun cream, so I sent off for some more. It's like, yeah, you're in the city, yeah, 4 minutes or walking to the, you know, yeah, but this is
life and death.
Like it is. it's been proved. Now I'm going to bring Ian in now because
sure.
we've been talking radio. We'll come back to it more. But Ian, you've been testing. You're the man with the answers really for that sort of 22-kilometer range. Would you know of any product that might have a 22-kilometer range? Oh,
yeah. I wouldn't say I'm the man with the answers, but yeah, I've been trying to do some tests with the Herelink system from the guys over at Profi. It all sort of stems back to October last year when I first saw it. Every now and again, there's a product that catches your eye and you get a little bit excited about it because it's not only what it can do now, but what it will bring to the table. And the Herelink is one of them. Actually, I got the unit. I got the one I've had to beg and borrow and steal, and I literally have begged, borrowed, and steal this one here. And I've done a few videos on it. I've done some talking about setting it up and stuff. And one of the common questions that just kept coming back time and time again was, the range is saying 20 kilometers, will it do it? And it is a controversial subject, especially in the drone industry, because there are very few countries where you can legally fly that range until you get to scenarios like you're discussing there. But trying to demonstrate that in such a way which remains legal, because I am UK based, so I can't just shove it on an aircraft and fly it as far as I want, and trying to see what it is capable of doing. So I'm lucky where I live. I live in quite a coastal area, and I started looking around and Google and sort of figuring out where could I test this system in such a way that it would demonstrate what it is capable of doing, and that's what we've been doing really.
And you're on the westy bit of Wales, aren't you? And you set a cliff top location, because I saw a post on Facebook, I think, and it piqued my interest. That's why I wanted to talk to you. So, but on a cliff to somewhere else. Yeah.
The idea was, where can I get enough distance? Now, the first thing I thought was, okay, we need to build a base station. Now, what I ended up with is this monstrosity here, which is what I knocked together, and it is actually virtually a full aircraft, short of photo.
I see what you've done there. Yeah, I see what you've
literally, you know, I had some spare bits laying around. So we've got the cube autopilot on the bottom, and the reason I wanted the cube on it is I wanted to test telemetry as well, because at the end of the day, if you're going to test it, you need to test control, video, and everything in its normal scenario. So I jerry-rigged it onto this tripod, sat it up on top of a cliff top, and pretty much found about a 5-kilometer run and did the first tests on that. And the interesting thing was, and the first thing, and I mentioned this, was when I set it up on the cliff, I ended up having to actually go all the way around the car park, down, and I was about 40 meters below it, behind concrete buildings, and it was actually still working. And that was always a good sign at that point, because very little anything else would work at that point from where it was. Took it up the coast, it smashed through 5-6 kilometers, no problem at all. Took it up to the far end of the beach. It is line of sight over water. It was a good probably 30 meters up on the cliff top, and I was at probably 5 meters up on the original test, and it was working fine. So I sort of ran out of space the first time. So in the end, I had to find a second location, which gave me a larger stretch across water, which gave us, I think, 9 miles, 9.6 miles, 16 kilometers. Convinced the wife, as you do on these things, because in the comments on Facebook from the wife at the time was, it's never boring being married to me, as I say, right, go drive that way and me when you get there. But we set it up on a cliff top and straight across the bay, and yeah, absolutely still giving us I think it's 16.5 kilometers of range, no problem whatsoever. So there's a lot of promise with Herelink. There is a huge amount of promise with Herelink. I've not tested anything that's given me that range before, and I've tested pretty much everything.
And I see where you are. You're not a million miles away from Aberporth. Why don't you get the guys at Aberporth, stick it on the Watchkeeper, and see what happens?
They don't really like talking to people like me up there, unfortunately. And, you know, I remember driving past there one day, and one of their latest toys come over top of the car at about 20 meters, and I don't think that was planned. But yeah, as you say, it is going to be interesting to see what this can do, because Profi is saying 20K. Absolutely. You know, the way I'm seeing it so far, I see no reason why that isn't going to be an issue, because it was still showing full signal. Now, the only thing, as you guys said earlier, you're going to come up against is the curvature of the Earth. As soon as we start getting out, we're going to start heading for issues like that. But there are ways around it.
Well, yeah. Well, flatten it. Well, the Earth could be flat, couldn't it? I mean, if you change your whole opinion, then yes, there are ways around that.
Yeah, there are ways. But no, it's beginning to show some real promise. I was very lucky to get my hands on this one. There was only a few in the UK, and I literally had to beg someone who was extremely kind to me, who said, "Yeah, go on in, have a play with it." And I've been doing it ever since, really.
And for those that don't know, it's got basically an Android tablet hiding in there, and it's running Q ground control, I think, at the moment, and it's going to be running the one I've forgotten the name of. And
coming. Yeah, Solex is coming.
Solex. That's it. And
yeah,
so, sorry. After you.
Yeah, as you say, it's 5-inch tablet. Okay, you can. It's very similar to the ST16 from Unique, just smaller. There are systems out there. You know, DJI have Lightbridge 2. You've got Connex. You've got FPV Blue. Everyone's been doing something. The problem is they're all generally either completely standalone, they don't work with anything else, or if it's DJI's, it's completely proprietary. So it's not going to give you the options with a third-party controller. The best thing about Herelink is the capability with the integration with Mavlink, because it just opens an entire new world. And we're getting closer to be able to having a fully independent system. We're still... Okay, Gramsci have got cameras that are gimbals that are getting closer. We're not quite there yet with regards to cameras, but we have a control system now. We have the flight controller. We just need a little bit more. And hopefully,
I know someone that went to Gramsci today, funnily enough.
Ew, that's interesting.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, and then funnily enough, they're on a plane to India at the moment. So if you've got your social media, you'll be able to work out who that is. But he was at Gramsci today. So, so funny you should mention that name.
It's funny, isn't it? There's a lot going on at the moment. But yeah, you know, it's okay. It's not perfect. There's it's at beta stage today. So, and one of the things in all the videos I've done about it and everything I've spoke about, I've tried to steer clear of some of the issues that we know about, because they're going to be fixed. It's as simple as that. Philip has been very open and said, look, this is what we're doing. This is what we intend to do. The biggest, I think, complaint from a lot of guys is the lack of hardware buttons, but Solex will sort that for most cases, because Solex gives you a whole host of controls around the buttons, more than you get on the soft buttons at the moment. But here and now, it is looking extremely interesting. It really is. And for Pixel users, it's a no-brainer. Absolutely,
and most of the aircraft at the event last year in Tanzania were indeed Pixel users. It is the standard autopilot for that sort of a thing. A lot of separate lift thrusters. It's all separate lift thrusters. One thing I will say, let's jump back to Jonty and just chip in. If you just speak up if you want to, Ian, don't worry about it. Just chip on in. Why do you think the insistence on the VTOL part? If you've seen any of my videos, I'm a believer in football pitches. They're everywhere. They're everywhere in Africa. If you can get on and off a football pitch, it's good enough. Whereas VTOL brings with it complexity.
I think it's the user cases that have been the reason that we've gone down the VTOL routes, and also just being able to have that. Well, part of the decision was made before I joined, so why we went down that route. But I think it was the user cases of where people were going to be. We're going down that going and going to the particular locations. I think there's pros and cons around all of it. I think it makes it harder going down the VTOL route, and that's why this has to be a competition. It can't be just people being able to do the easiest option. Does that sort of answer the question, Gav?
What do you mean you can't do the easiest option? Only if you're going to run commercially, you'd want to do the easiest. Look, Zipline have done. I thought Zipline were bonkers. I thought it was a crazy idea. Not landing the aircraft, not being able to reload the aircraft on the return journey. But quickly I realized they own the takeoff and they own the landing utterly, the two trickiest parts of it. And they've got very good at dropping that package. So I was utterly wrong in my appraisal of Zipline to start with. So why wouldn't you do it the easiest way?
I think because we're seeing the requirement around the world for it not, you may not be able to have that capability of being able to be able to own both the landing and the takeoff points. You may have to have something where where it's going to have to be automated in some way, shape, or form. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you guys know it better than from my point of view, but I think it was making it more difficult. Ian.
Yeah, I think if you look at the last year, VTOL has become the buzzword in the drone industry. And I think Gary would probably agree with this. We've gone from it being, okay, a very niche side to guys experimenting to the #1 thing everybody's trying. Literally every experimental aircraft you see out there is VTOL. There has to be something in this. I think, okay, if you look at component cost, it's minimal. I think once we get it successful, it will be the only way forward. And I think if you look, there's a whole industry heading in one direction with fixed wing now, with regards to fixed wing drone for this kind of package drop in, things like that, and everyone's going VTOL. So I think whilst fixed wing is easier, I think in the end VTOL is probably the best solution.
But is there a safety aspect? Sorry, yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to jump in, but I just want to ask Jonty about the mapping element of the competition. Does that have to be VTOL as well?
No, it doesn't. As long as well, we're you're asking me a question, and I need to make sure that I don't give you an answer that is incorrect. So I'm just going to check and make sure that
Well, the reason I say that is with a Believer platform, I love the Believer platform. We can easily get that to fly for 4 hours with a proper mapping sensor on it. With a Believer platform, you could do most of the area. But thinking about where the launch site is, which is palm trees around a volleyball court right on the beach, I'd actually just want to go to the car park out the back to launch and land. So that, maybe in a little ways people got very excited about it's all going to be VTOL. So I was talking about the making the delivery ports, the hubs which would then have people working on the, because also part of the competition must have known ranty mode. Sorry about this, but in fourth industrial age, every other word was blockchain and fourth industrial age. And the trouble with the fourth industrial age is if companies come in with their technology for, let's say, the 3-month contract, and then turn around and go home, then there's been no technology transfer into Africa. So it's very much got to bring the skills and bring the technology transfer there, and that's part of what these hubs are about. But anyway, where I was going with that was they're saying, oh, now we don't even need to have a runway at them. And I was just thinking, well, that's mad. If you're building in the middle of nowhere, put a runway on it so the Cessna could land, or the Caravan or a bigger aeroplane with all the major stuff. But anyway, I'm ranting a bit. So I think
the reason for VTOL is there's an element of safety where we can control it much more. There is an element of, especially in the remote, is when it goes to drop off the islands. Yes, you could do a fixed wing drop off. That wouldn't be a problem. That's what somebody can do. That's not a problem. But I think if they're going to do a pickup, it has to be a VTOL process, because you never know where you're going to be. You're going to be dropping it off at, it could be designated points, but it could be points that are actually in the bush, or could be quite remote. And that's where it starts getting more interesting.
But that was interesting about the zipline case. I asked them when I was there, do they ever do places that they don't know about? And they flatly said no. They've surveyed the route, and they've surveyed the routes to the point of also working out the best altitudes to be, and they don't terrain follow anything, and which valleys to go up. They've surveyed and done each one, so they would never go sort of off piste, as it were. It's what am I trying to say? I was trying to think of something else. But that's right. So to give, again, dear viewer, to give you an idea of the scene. So we've all been to drone, model aeroplane things, whatever, where things have very much gone off piste and landed in the crowd and whatever. At this event last time, they were having, when they did the big flight, they put on an instant cocktail reception. So there's that much faith in the whole thing that they had all the VIPs, all the Civil Aviation Authority people, the local minister, this, that. It was all very nice. There's canapes and cocktails, and there was a little wire fence. But David Guerin, you have to remember there is Outback Challenge blood running through the veins of this competition, and he sorted it out. I'm not saying it was unsafe. It was just the level of confidence in the gear was like, wow. But
I think we're expecting people to be professional within this whole process, and we're asking people who are putting their credibility and their brand associated with it in ways that they couldn't do it. And I don't think David or any of the team would have allowed anybody to have actually taken off if there wasn't full confidence that something if something had gone wrong, and everybody has to realize that if it needs to ditch, it's going to be ditching into water, and so everybody needs to have full confidence in what their drone capability is, because otherwise their drone is going to sink down to the bottom of Lake Victoria in the end.
No, it was absolutely next level of setup and stuff like that, and yeah, I didn't mean. I wasn't saying it was unsafe, but it was just extraordinary, and it was only a hop in it. So it's, again, to your point earlier, this isn't a competition happening in segregated airspace, miles and miles and miles from anywhere. This is a competition where you can see the end of an international runway. The city's over there on your left. You're taking off from a volleyball court right on the edge of the lake with big palm trees and then waterness. So it's full on. I was very impressed. I was prepared to be underwhelmed, but I was very impressed.
But part of the whole process of this whole thing is that if this drone capability can be shown, then they're talking about having like an amazing drone port being built with an international architect coming in and designing it all, and there's a whole process that could come about, and we're hoping that ones at some point will actually have a radar capability actually at the airport at the moment as well, and so that will change it as well, and they'll actually have to have an integrated traffic management system for the drones, and how that capability will then integrate in is becoming more and more important, and how we'll authorize the drone flights, because especially if we're thinking about having 10 to 15 flights a day coming out of the thing when we're doing it in commercial operation. But actually during the flight operations, we could be having, I think it's like 40 flights in each 24-hour period or something like that we're looking at the moment, which is an extraordinary amount of flights. I mean, that we'll be asking people to integrate and getting everybody working on the UTM and actually being safe and secure. So I think we're all going to have a lot of fun in November trying to when it all starts kicking off and testing. But yeah, I mean, the question is for the people on the listening to this is, if you know anybody, or you know anybody who's interested in a drone system or has a drone system of their own that they would like to do, please go to the Lake Victoria Challenge website. Just Google Lake Victoria Challenge drones and have a look at the competitions. And it's quite a simple process to apply. I mean, we're just trying to prove it. I mean, it could be that we could do something like that's happened with the Outback Challenge, that people weren't able to complete some of the competitions, and that proves it. That shows, that lets you people know that they'll try again. And Outback Challenge has just released its a week ago. It released its next set of competitions, next set of rules for the next round, and that's been interesting to see how they've evolved those, and they're changing the requirements for people as well.
Well, there's no doubt that competition has done more to drive forward and all the VTOL technology, an awful lot of the technology we're using, including the stuff from the 3-letter vendor. An awful lot of stuff has been driven forward and come out of the Outback Challenge. It really an amazing competition. One day maybe I'll go, but it's definitely an amazing competition, and it's hard. It's very, very hard indeed.
But I think we wouldn't want it to be easy. I think with any of these challenges, you don't want to create, when you design the rules for a challenge, you don't want to make it so that it's, I think you want to make it so that it interests enough people to participate. And as anybody who's entered a competition, you want a chance at succeeding and winning, but you also want to motivate people to try to push themselves better, bigger, faster, evolve their platforms as well. People are talking and asking us if they can do software updates and how easy, because a lot of people have stable platforms, but it's their software that they're actually having to evolve more and more, and also their links, their C2C links. Those seem to be becoming more and more important, and usually they're an additional modification or a bolt-on to their existing systems.
I think Philip told me there might be some sort of relay system involved in the Herelink. I can't remember, or he was going to think about it anyway. In the question, Gorilla Drone's asking how busy is the aerodrome from a GA point of view. It's not particularly busy. It's aircraft coming in and out of. So you go to the Masai Mara or the Ngorongoro crater as a tourist. So there's a lot of 208s coming in and out from lodges doing that, and then there is the what's the EC1 Embraer 190s and that sort of size aircraft coming in from bigger places. So it's not super busy. It's a single runway, one way going both ways, but it's it's right there. But it's not a drama.
No, and we've got 45. We're usually going to have about a 45-minute window to an hour window between flights arriving and departing. So we've got that point of view of being able to control that. But we are going to have to work within the airspace. And when we actually are outside of the airspace, so where we're talking to go to Jimarana, we actually will have to work within it. But we're hoping nobody crosses the flight path that we're going to be selecting. But as you know from last time, Gary, there was about to take off and somebody was about to do, and then suddenly there was some idiot pilot decided to divert off his standard route and take a different route over the lake and came within the airspace of the drone flights, and so that we have to work within that structure as well and be safe and secure within that.
And all aircraft in Tanzania are at least Mode S enabled. So as long as you have enough ADS-B Mode S receivers, then they can be multilaterated and pop up. So at least all the traffic can be seen, which can't be said of a lot of other places. Well,
it's one of the reasons why Tanzania has been selected to host this, is because actually they have made certain decisions that have been leading in the East Africa sphere, and also that they are willing to work and they do want to be seen as the leader in this space. And in Mwanza, the local government is very engaged in this whole process and wants to be seen to be hosting it and wants to be seen to have association with it. And that we're really supportive of. That, I mean, with a lot of our projects, I'm doing projects in Ghana and Uganda at the moment, and sometimes it's quite hard to get the local government really involved in these whole processes because it's not part of their own remit, or they may not feel like they're going to get kudos from central government because of it. But we know that when in the Mwanza area that they're very, very involved and have been involved for a long time and have been fully supportive of this, and we look forward to that continuing over the course of the competition and into the service contracts. But you were asking one question where you were asking, which was about the third competition, which was the mapping competition. We're only asking people to take pictures. We're not asking them then to do the analysis or anything like that. All they have to do is show that they can do a controlled, do a repeatable map of imagery. We're not asking them to then do the AI version, the machine learning of actually analyzing any of the change of the imagery. That had been thought about, but we thought that actually was beyond the scope of most drone systems and was getting into image processing, which felt like outside of the remit of most organizations. So it's just repeatability on that one, but at quite a high resolution.
What sort of distance were we talking about for that flight?
I think I was actually just checking to make sure that I understood correctly. And I think it's, we actually it isn't defined so well. I think it's going to be a couple of kilometers outside of Mwanza kind of thing. So it's not, distance isn't the thing, it's the repeatability of the flight track and making sure that works well.
Here's Nicola. Nicola, wait, you said 11, where have you been? Well, look, I see, where have you been? Where have you been?
Yeah, got distracted for a bit. Sorry about that.
That's fine. We'll come to talk to you about that. I want to talk to you
Just
about
now, remember there was something I had tonight.
Oh yeah. I know. Oh,
Actually, I'd forgotten, and I saw your email on my phone. Just picked it up and thought, "Oh damn!"
Well, it's lovely to see you. It's lovely to see you.
You too, Gary.
Well, we'll come back to you in a second. I'm a little bit disappointed with that, Jonty. I wanted the mapping area to be at least 100 kilometers away. You've got to make this a decent challenge, because otherwise you're making it suit certain manufacturers only. Make it a decent challenge, Jonty. Loads of people will be able. Even Nicola will be able to do that. Make it a decent challenge. Oh, he's not gonna. Jonty's not gonna rise to that.
So he's not biting, is he?
He's not biting. He's either not biting or he's gone.
I'm not. You're talking about me?
No. I was talking about John. Oh dear.
He's frozen.
He's frozen. That was perfect timing for him to freeze, because otherwise I worry that some challenges will certain. Because if you can do the BV loss thing, there's no point in playing with platforms that are really only good within BV loss. There's plenty of platforms out there, the Believer, that will do. I may or may not know someone that's actually flown 80 kilometers into a mapping area, done the flight, and then flown home 80 kilometers in time for tea and medals. And with the Believer, you've still got an hour. You've got an hour on task in your mapping area. So I can't go. Well,
okay, hold on. Was that with a live video downlink or just a blind mission?
Cheerio. No, not live video, but communication, definitely telemetry over that distance. Yeah.
Okay.
Just
that's impressive. So 80 kilometers in a straight line, then do the mapping mission, and then fly 80 kilometers back.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Okay, that must have taken the better part of a day.
No, not really. It's only an hour or so to get there, an hour to fly, an hour back. It's only 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In winter.
Was to believe it? No. It was, and funny enough, it was in a country that's been mentioned in this. No, it's not South Africa, but it has been mentioned. But I'm not going to go any further than that. But I was just you ducked out at a very opportune moment there, John. That was.
What did I miss? Sorry,
you missed me.
Had to switch internet connections.
Oh, there we are. And you're in the first world. I was just saying, it sounds like the mapping task is a little bit too easy.
The part for the mapping task, though, is the repeatability and how complex. We're talking people getting 20 centimeter resolution, and being able to do it safely within that controlled space, and being able to map. They're mapping a couple of kilometers of land, so people are going to have to be able to do it in a really interesting way to make sure that they're overlapping. Their mosaic is being done correctly, so that they're not missing any imagery and anything like that. So.
But no, I'm going to argue with you. I'm going to argue with you. The VTOL, the delivery task, is new, cutting edge, newish stuff. It's all hard. The mapping stuff, we've been doing it for 10 years. It's easy.
I think the part that everybody has. Well, look, when I heard about the competitions, I said that was really easy, and then everybody actually has told me no, it's not going to be that easy. Mainly because of the repeatability aspect of it, and also the resolution that we're all wanting to hold them to. But also somebody being able to make it commercially viable. They're going to have to do different areas continuously. So it's not just going to be one area and then one area and one area. They're going to have to build and set up maps for specific areas, because we're really looking at this from a disaster point of view. Is they're going to have mapped it, and then they're going to have to regularly show that that has changed. And then can they then do, if then a disaster happens in a particular area or something happens, that they actually can then show and go, okay, now we're going to send you here in an unplanned route. Can you then map this particular area that's already you've mapped previously? So I think we're not going to make it as easy as it sounds. We can't give everything of what the competition, what we're going to give the rules, but as long as somebody can show they're going to do that, we are then going to make it slightly more funky, because they're actually going to have to show that they've actually detected the change that we've put up. So can we see it on our system? We're not going to allow people to come up and try to mimic it.
And so is there look, on the aircraft, the stretch goals 80 kilometers away with at least 1 kilo. That's the maximum one. Once you've gone over 22 k's of 1 kilo. So is there a minimum area for mapping, and will they have to put in ground control as well?
I don't know is the answer. I'm going to have to, that's something that we'll be defining once we know who's applied to participate. We'll then be defining all of that. I think it's going to come out the first week of May, those additional details. At the moment, we want to see who puts themselves up to participate, because what we're seeing is people are interested in they're all adding in saying they can do the find and assess as like a secondary catch-up. So a lot of people who are doing the drop-off are saying, yeah, we can do find and assess as well, kind of thing. What we're trying to do is not have something that is, there's a lot of stuff that's being done with school kids and with people who are doing it with fabricated drones. We want to actually see that the commercial aspect of this being made more available. We don't want to see it being something that's managed by an NGO or something like that. Where's the commercial aspect of this whole process? And there will be a commercial contract associated to cover a large area of the Lake Victoria as part of this whole process.
And what would that be? Just getting their maps up to date. They're pretty good in terms,
yeah.
You know, and just
yeah, and then regularly updating them over the course of a 3-month period, kind of thing. I think there's a whole lot of aspects that can be used for mapping. We're talking about it, but actually it can be used for planning purposes. It can be used for change purposes. It can be used for health purposes. One of the things that we're really interested in with another program I'm doing is actually saying, can we detect what agriculture people are doing? So putting different kinds of lenses on certain of the cameras. So can we use certain infrared cameras on the thing so we can detect if it's maize that's growing or if it's wheat that's being grown? Or can we, one of the other things that mining companies are looking at is, can they detect certain plants through using certain infrared or imaging things that can then let us know that there are copper or certain other things on the surface that could then know that mining could be an issue there. So there's a lot of things that could be coming out because of this whole process. And so it's just proving that this technology actually has an aspect that's commercial. And
this would be another prize, another $100,000 contract, or is it the same?
It is. Yeah.
Another $100,000.
No. So there is 3 lots of $100,000. So that everybody is on their own service agreement contract on this.
So, all right. So we've got delivery of 1 kilo-ish and units of 1, and then the smaller one. Just help me understand why that's another one, not the same delivery one.
No, so this is a pickup. So it's a pickup. So you've got drop off, which is the kilo, but we think that making people pick up a kilo is quite hard. So we're making it 250 grams. Or multiples of 250 grams of the pickup elements when they have to do it. So they'll have to pick up, fly to Juma, land, or have some kind of pickup mode that people want to set up. And then they'll pick up, so the aircraft will have to pick it up and then returns it to Mwanza. And they will have to do that without a change of battery and without a pilot being in the remote location.
So that's a full.
So it makes it slightly more interesting.
We'll call it. We'll round it up to 25. We especially might be if you get, and what they did last time is they set up like an airway to go around the top of the island, and so it wasn't quite the same as a straight line distance, and that's what the tower knew about. So we might call that a 50-kilometer round trip journey with at least a kilo, no battery change, and no one at the other end to give it love.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that would be the hardest one. Yeah. Well, it's not a kilo if you're doing the pickup. It could be 250 grams only. So it could be a slightly lighter weight aircraft that we're looking at.
But you could you end up winning both of those $100,000 prizes with one aircraft?
Yeah. Well, you may need multiple aircraft because you'll be expected to do flights a day. So if you've got the service, if you win the service contract, you're going to have to supply 5 flights a day for 90 days. So you're going to be doing a good chunk of 300+ flights over that period, and that will take more than one aircraft, we believe. You'll have to think about spare parts and everything like that.
And can you, from Guerrilla Drones, can you both drop and pick up at the same time?
You will be doing them as 2 separate ones. So you'll do a competition where you'll do your drop off, but if your flight can do it, we'll do as a separate one of a pickup. But if somebody can do it as a separate contract, you can enter both competitions. That's fine. So yeah, if somebody wants to do both competitions, but we'll treat them separately because we'll make it fair to all the participants. So we'll be going to first be doing the drop off, and then the next few days we'll then do a pickup, and then we'll do the aerial survey after that. We're not going to have everybody flying all at the same time.
And how are you gonna? You might not have thought about this, but when the last one happened, there's 2 things actually going to go. And one thing did happen, and there was a big thunderstorm arrived, and everyone that went on the boat to the island got soaking wet to watch the landing, which made me laugh. I was in the bar. I was okay. So weather. So if lots of weather kicks up, how are you going to handle that for?
We've got more days. We've got days extra built into the timeline. So we did have a concern because of the time of year that we're going to do it, which is the end of November, and there is more chance of thunderstorms happening in that period. So we have allowed for more hours, but usually they pass quite quickly. As you'd have seen, they pass quite quickly through. They don't really hang around. They last a short amount of time, and then they keep going. So we don't.
Yeah, the other one there, which I don't know if you're aware of, the lake flies that happen in Lake Victoria. You get great clouds. There's even no sound when it happens, and you fly around them when you're in an aeroplane. You don't go through them. That's another hazard that I can see being issue.
I think is it the fact that I think the part though there is how people will react to it. How will the drones manage that whole kind of process, and will it interact with them actually? There's been some questions raised that actually the vibrational noise from certain of the electric motors actually may put the insects off. So there's whole aspects that people don't know about how the insects are actually going to react to having these noisy beasts going past them or through them.
Well, I know they stop lycomings if you fly through them, so I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna worry. This whole sky goes black with flies. But anyway, moving on swiftly. Rich is asking, does the UAV? I think we answered this earlier, but you do it again. Does the UAV have to perform an unassisted pickup, or does someone load it with the payload?
So they will be loading it with the payload, but they can't be a pilot, so they can't control the landing or the takeoff. But they will be able to assist in the loading of it, however they want to do. Be that something, yeah.
Can they instigate the takeoff? So if if there's a safety mechanism on that side on the aircraft, safety switch after landing or anything like that, are they allowed to go? Yes, it's now safe.
Yeah, they will. So we're assuming that there will be some kind of communication to alert people to go that it's safe to take off. We're expecting that kind of level of communication. We're also expecting that when people do the test flight, that there will be somebody on the island with a button that goes, something's got wrong, and they'll be able to terminate the flight at that point. But we do want to see how people manage it themselves as well.
So telemetry, permanent telemetry is a requirement. It can't.
It is. So with permanent C2C link with a backup C2C link, we're also expecting and monitoring. So we do want people to. We're assuming people are going to be using either, and this is where regulatory changes and regulatory things are starting to come in, because it looks like a lot of the regulatory, especially in Europe and stuff like that, are saying that a GSM connection isn't good enough now for a constant C2C link. So can that just be a backup, and will there have to be a permanent one as well? And that's been an interesting aspect of, do we go with what Tanzania is currently allowing, or do we try to stick with more European and North American standards? And that's been the question.
Yeah, we're heavily restricted on RF in Europe as it is anyway. So we're not sure what band we've got left we can use for anything these days. But yeah, as you say, compared to over there, cellular in itself isn't going to be good enough, and radio we just don't have the power outputs available in Europe that you'd need ideally.
Well, one of the things that we are lucky about is Telcom in Tanzania. We've just done them. They've just updated the GSM maps, so we do have updated telephony maps, and actually there's reasonably good coverage over to Juma Island on a 3G link, and actually even for the 80K flight, at a certain point you'll be down to GPRS, but you should be able to have some kind of continuous telecommunication, except right in the middle. And I think we're allowing only a 10-second dropout of communication. So we've defined how much people can do, but we think majority of the time people will will stay within link. And what they have to do if they don't, if they drop out of link or they go out of the geofencing, how they're going to then react to it. I think that's where the UTM comes into place.
Sorry, what sort of altitude are you going to let them on the 80-kilometer trip? What sort of altitude are you going to be allowing them up to? And I should say hello to Ian as well. Stereo Ian's would have been good, Ian. But anyways, in the comments. So yeah, what sort of altitude, transitioning altitude on that on the longest?
Gary, I don't know. I don't know is the answer. I think it will come down to what we're allowed to do at that particular time. I think this is something that's still changing within Tanzania. Tanzania's rules and regulations are still an evolving aspect, and we've got the Lake Victoria Challenge is sponsoring an event actually in the beginning of May, in the next few weeks actually, in Mwanza, to talk about UTMs and flight control things and stuff like that with the Tanzania government and with other regional partners. And I think that's something that will come out in that kind of process. There's still some kind of flexibility because it's Africa. There's still things that can change. But we want to run within, we want to make it so that it's safe. So I think, yeah, I'll clarify when I know more, and what I'll do is I really like to come back once we know who's going to be participating in stage 2, is come back and tell you guys what the updated information is, because this has made us think about some stuff that we're always trying to just get participants in at the moment, and trying to work with Chinese language barriers and all that kind of stuff at the moment.
Well, I like to think that our viewers tend to know their stuff, their onions. They do tend to actually. So there'd be a lot of knowledge hiding around here, hanging around, lurking knowledge. Let's quickly go to Nicola to talk about that F-22. That F-22. Am I rushing off to buy it for my son, or I'm not?
Oh.
Well, that was that. Well, there we are then. Let's try that again. Technology didn't work. You just said no, didn't you?
Does he fly?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. But are we going to? And then
is he?
Yeah, he is. Oh, it's much better than me. That's easily done.
All right. Still wouldn't risk it.
But at the weight, so did you say it's like 101 or 105 grams or something like that? GPS, RTL, and all that.
102, yeah, 102 grams with an autopilot, the GPS video camera that actually records, not only transmits, and return to home functionality, the battery, the works. Thing is, that thing is a nightmare to keep in the air. And I'm guessing the autopilot does help a little bit and also does interfere a little bit. So,
I see you. I think I probably agree with you with the propeller being off balance. It probably was vibrations causing it no end of trouble. So do you think if they'd expended another 40 grams on a little bit more of an airframe, it might level itself out a bit more, slightly bigger? And
well, I just finished my written review today and published it on my blog, so you could read there. But my opinion, they should have just concentrated on an H301S version 2 or something like that. At some point, there was something that was called H302F that was for some time listed on Banggood. I haven't seen it anywhere, and Hubsan actually said that they're not going to realize that project, which is a pity, really, because it was a larger glider with the prop elevated higher up above the main fuselage, which really cleared up the way for the for the camera. I really honestly do not understand the purpose of the F-22. It looks awesome. It's just awesome, but it's too small to be useful.
But it's interesting, you know.
The H301 was an absolutely awesome plane, and it was the only one. It was the only one that offered all of this into one package. The autopilot, the return to home functionality, the camera with the onboard recording and the video transmission, and the OSD on the ground. You know, you get it out of the box and you fly it right away. I mean, they still don't have any competition, and they choose to release that thing.
Yeah,
absolutely no idea what was the thought process that led to this plane coming to market. But I was really hoping to see like a bigger version of the H301S, and that would have been a killer, because there are a lot of people who want to get into FPV and have no idea where to start. And a lot of people through the years have asked me what to choose. And basically for an autopilot and everything all in one that's ready to go out of the box, that was the only option. The only option. There was the XK-A1200. That was sort of the same thing, but it was just a stabilizer, no GPS, no return to home. It was a good model. It was between the two, it was the better plane platform. It was the better plane. But between the two, it was lacking that autopilot functionality. But it was slightly larger. It could stay in the air for a lot longer than the Hubsan model. And that was a good thing.
But then surely they're going to see it in sales and complaints very quickly then with this change.
I really hope so. Thing is, are they gonna make like a different model, or are they just gonna stop making them altogether? For some reason, Banggood is still the H301S in stock, although I think even Hubsan said it's discontinued. So not about or if they've decided to keep making it for a while longer, but I really would urge them to consider making just a slightly larger, just to take you hints off of the XK-A1200 in terms of you know, fly size, etc., and just they've put into the F-20, just put it in a larger plane.
And what was the wingspan? Gorilla Drones is asking how much smaller it is. What was the wingspan on that thing?
On the F-22, it's 31 centimeters.
Yeah, it's small, eh?
Yeah, and I had them side by side with the Volantex mini trains. Both of them, and they're both micro models about this big. And literally, the Train Star is like, I think it's half the weight. I'm not sure if it even has 50 grams on it. And it's pretty much the same size, and this thing is double the weight. Yeah, probably the lift area is larger because literally the whole plane acts like a big wing. It's flat and long, but still, it's twice the weight. And for its weight, you expect to feel a sort of featherness when you pick it up out of the box, but it feels heavy.
Oh, okay. Okay, so
yeah, I mean, there's that expectation it's gonna be light because it's small, and then you pick it up and you think, okay, something doesn't quite add up.
so that might be part of your flight issue as well. Then, if it is actually, even though it's 102, 101, whatever you said grams, still a little bit heavy for what it is. But the autopilot and all that, do you think you're gonna? Has it got USB on it, or can you not talk to it at all?
Yeah.
Hack it?
No, this time it has. Actually, that was one of the few drawbacks of the H301S. Some people had issues with the return to home functionality, and they were asking for an update, and Hubsan were like, well, it doesn't have a USB, so there's no way for you to load an update. It just didn't have any way of communicating with the plane. This one has a USB, and it even has a hole in the battery hatch, so you can access the USB even without opening the battery hatch.
I've put a link below.
I don't know why.
To Nicola's video, Archangel RC's video of it. So have a look. It sounds like they put a lot of effort into designing, and it's not that untidy a design. It just doesn't fly.
It's absolutely, actually, it's mind-boggling how much effort has gone into designing this thing, because literally everything has its place and you can't move it a millimeter. And it was designed that way, assembled that way, to observe a CG from the factory. You don't have to do anything, just take it out of the box and fly it. So just looking how things are arranged around the plane, and it's mind-boggling how much effort has gone into designing this thing. It's perfection, and then it flies like shit.
Chase there.
It's a stunning loss. It's a stunning loss of effort. If they put that effort into designing like an 80 centimeter or a meter wingspan, well, okay, a meter or 1.2 meters wingspan glider, but not like the Ranger G2, like big and heavy and bulky, but like a slim plane like the XK A1200, or just a bigger version of the H301S, that would have paid back huge. This thing now, I don't know. It's shocking. It's shocking the feelings I'm feeling right now.
That's just
in regards to that thing.
Just a sort of review, Hubsan. We're looking at speaking there. It's shocking.
Gary, it sounds like that. It sounds like an engineer decided that they liked the F-22 and just wanted to make a model of it, and okay, it was like a personal project.
Yeah, should have made it bigger.
Yeah.
Is it the flight controller that's giving it the issues, or is it just bad flight characteristics?
The problem is that it just keeps pulling towards the ground. Once it gets airborne and it gets out of and you take it out of the auto takeoff mode, because there's actually no other way you can launch it. It has to be auto takeoff, but that's fine because it was obviously aimed at beginners. I'd like to see the beginner who's gonna fly this out of the box, straight away and not planted into the ground. It was obviously aimed at beginners, so there's that auto takeoff button, and once you take it out of auto takeoff and actually start flying it yourself, it just wants to dive down, and I end up flying with, compensating with the elevator. Times it will stop diving down and it will fly normally, and I'd let go of the elevator, and the next second again I'd pull on the elevator. All the time you go this going on, because I'm constantly fighting the autopilot. That's at one normally at the other moment is just pointing down, and to win.
Nicola, mate, it's super broken.
I think. Flying airtime.
We're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to shorten your review of the Orbit thing Fine.
You can read all about it.
Yeah, well, there is a link below. Yeah, there is a link in the comments below to that video. It's worth a look.
Yeah, and the link to my blog is in the video description too.
I'd be interested if you pulled the electronics out of that and put it into a glider, made up a chuck glider or something, and see what happened. Just go and get one of those dollar store gliders or something, and see what difference it would make, and see if you can get some. Do you know? Is it an F4? What do you know? What the processor is on the autopilot?
That thing is encapsulated in foam, and only heat sinks are visible. I'm not sure it's gonna be easy to pull that out. You're gonna have to destroy the plane. Everything's glued in place.
Sounds like you're only going to take it out for a couple more weekends, and you'll get that part done. So that'll be fine. Be absolutely fine. Cool, man. All right. Look, we've gone past the hour. We've gone well past the hour. Unbalanced and more each. Yeah, there's loads of things it needs, I think, but sounds like a good effort. So maybe the next one will come out soon. I like the sound of how it's been made, and isn't it extraordinary? We're talking at just over 100 grams, and that fits in with Australian rates. Unlike Canada, where it's sub 250 and you're all right, Australia's 100 grams. That's their limit for no regulations. So it almost fits into that mode there. Gentlemen, what we normally do at the end, and Nicola knows this, is we ask if there's any other stories that anyone's seen this week that you want to talk about. So is there anything that caught your eye that's happened in the last week? Going once, going twice.
I think in the UK, obviously, the NATS thing has happened yesterday, today. Pretty big.
Yes, the what's that called? That's called the Airspace AUP, Airspace User Portal, I think it is. And yeah, funny enough, I saw that fell in my inbox, and the thing that a lot of people have been reading, and then another email fell in my inbox saying, "Where on earth did you get hold of that? We're not releasing that news yet." And I'd already posted it. So, oh dear, how sad, never mind. So, Nats were quite surprised to read that in SES News today. But they put it out. It was in their newsletter. It was like, well, what are you going to do? So, yeah. But that looks like a step forward. England, the UK has been a little bit of a hinterland since some of the rules changed last month, where airfields are beginning to take it upon themselves. I think a lot of airfields believe they're in their responsibility chain now.
Yeah. Well, mine has not responded to 3 emails that I've made requests of inquiring what I actually have to do to have permission. I've not even got to the stage of needing it, but you know, I am a PFCO in the UK. It's not my day job, but yeah, and they're not even responding to emails, you know, and that's run by the local government, which is just crazy. It's at the stage where we've had so many updates, even those of us who follow it are struggling to keep up with what's changed on a daily basis. I think I'm on revision about 564 of my ops manual this year. So
I know it's been bad news for your ops manuals over there this year, isn't it? That's the ops manual writing services are popping up left, right, and centre.
Well, yes, so you've spotted that as well. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Been an interesting one in the last 2 weeks. I have been following it. The proper Ian has as well, I suspect. And yeah, it seems to be the biggest growing industry within the drone industry is writing ops manuals. And the way the CAA are going, that's probably only going to get bigger as well.
I think I'm probably talking out of turn, but I think what will come out in the wash is a lot of the things happened. A lot of things were in the works from the consultation last year, but there was a little bit of a gut reaction to Gatwick, and things have been forced through by MPs, and left and right hand haven't known, and it hasn't been communicated properly. And I think, in fact, this very thing today, Nat's asking me, where did I get that? Or someone asking me on behalf of Nat's, and I had to say, well, it's in your newsletter. So it's, you know,
it's almost weekly emails from Skywise at the moment, literally going, something's changed, and it's like I'm almost at the stage where I don't actually know what I'm legally allowed to do at the moment. So I need to take a week off work and read everything from day one.
Yeah, I know. And if you don't mind me asking, what is your local airport then?
That's just outside Pembrokeshire, so Haverfordwest would be.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The moment, it's obviously with the changes now to the 4.6 kilometers. If I want to go within that, it's not an issue, but they're not responding to any inquiries. So obviously we've seen some turn around and say you're not flying at all in some parts of the country. Some have been okay. It's like they weren't even told it was coming. And they've all suddenly defaulted to, we're not giving you permission for anything, blame can lay at us.
I believe that is exactly the case. They weren't told it was coming. I believe that is exactly
it. If you want to say yes, then no.
Or it was communicated very poorly. So then the easiest answer is just no. And in a former life, I used to answer telephones at air traffic control tower, and if somebody was very polite and they might not have known exactly what they wanted, but we'd have helped them. But if somebody was very rude and suggested they had a right to do something, I'd just say, yeah, tell you what, no. And that was just based on my 18-year-old whim. And that very, very well maybe was. What's really insane? Saying it's a sad state of affairs when the CAA said they charge fees for making mistakes with ops manuals. Yeah, that's the problem. Which, when the rules are changing at the moment, make a mistake in ops manual is too easy. For example, referencing legislation that's been updated. Yes, no, you're absolutely right. Yes, people are being charged for mistakes, and yeah, if they change everything every week, that is hardly fair.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to say, but it's a silly thing probably for me to say. But right now, my ops manual probably isn't right. And it's because it's changing every week, and you're at the stage of, are you updating this every week, or are you going to wait for 3 months and update it in batches? And I actually asked a question on that, and I didn't really get an answer from them either. At what stage do I need to be making the changes? And yes, there's always that point of renewal. It has to be correct. But as you're going along, should it be correct today as of the laws today, or as the regulations today? So
I'm trying to think back to my days when I had to operate under ops manuals for other things, other aviation things. I think as long as we had the NOTAMs and all that in the office, and you had to buy them all back in the day, and their air pilot and all that, I think as long as we had those up to date, we were considered okay without having to change the actual ops manual. So maybe they should have more of a requirement for I don't know. But what do you have to have as regards NOTAMs and the air pilot?
It's your ops manual is your operating procedures. So the reality is all your checks, all your NOTAMs and everything are a separate entity, and you would do them as part of your flight plan. So really the ops manual is relevant from the point of the A&O, any changes to that. So I suppose the question mark comes is if it's referencing obsolete sections of the A&O or change sections of the A&O, then are you in breach of the regulations or not? And that's where it gets a bit in hot water. But
do you actually have an A&O in your office, though?
I have a printed one. I do have a printed copy, yeah.
And then you're part of the update service to that. So as long as you're update, surely your ops manual could say, if my A&O is up to date, am I cushy, sort of a thing?
You actually have to reference the version in the ops manual currently, so you're constantly referencing the actual version. But then again, the CAA have also been very open to us talking about it as well. So I think we tend to worry more than necessary as commercial operators. We tend to always be going, oh, am I going to get in trouble for this or that? Whereas the reality is we're still the safest, the most qualified, in theory, out there. So we've just got to make sure that we're doing the best we can do and hope that that is enough, really.
Ian, does that affect your insurance? Is the main reason that you're having to keep this updated is because of insurance, or the main?
It is, and the problem is that that's a big grey area in itself, because I fly predominantly for hobby, but partly commercial. Now, there's the massive length of grey area, probably the size of Wales, defining the two between those at the moment. And the insurance companies have again been fairly straightforward in the sense of they've said, fly within the law and we'll cover you. The issue comes, I suppose, when you need to make a claim. And, we've all heard the horror stories of cars, a tyre that's 1 mil below the limit, they won't cover you, things like that. We're not at that stage in drone insurance yet. But I suppose there's going to be a day when a big claim comes that they're going to start dissecting every inch of what you've done to try and find a way out. And because that's the nature of insurance at the end of the day. You know, they're going to want to pay out if they have to, but not if they don't. And we've not come across that. I think we've been very lucky. I can't recall any big payouts at all. Gary, I'm not aware of any. I don't think.
No, yeah, really, I might know. I know of one here. I know of one in South Africa that was over £100,000, getting on for £200,000. I guess it depends what you define as big, I suppose. It's yeah. Well, that's yeah. Well, we keep an eye on that, and obviously, I think the Airspace user portal, it might very well be something that Tanzania's got to think about, or whatever. And,
yeah.
and African nations are probably just going to buy a system and just reach in and grab it and run with whichever one they choose to be a winner. What to say? I don't know what to say about all that. But of course, this Airspace user portal is also sort of the first step to fins, I think, which will be another interesting thing if that ever happens and is ever really needed. Ian says, heard of payouts in excess of £10,000 outside the UK. Yeah.
You know,
yeah, so nothing in the UK then, you think? Yeah, no.
And at the end of the day, you know, insurance it's a business at the end of the day, and we should never forget that. And they're always going to be a point where they're going to want to cover themselves as well. You know, we're very early days in all of this stuff. Yeah, you know, we have begun to see how the cards lie with regards to proper claims and liability and things. I think the industry's been really lucky and, you know, very safe. You know, I know Bruce really does kick off big style about how safe the industry's been, and he's quite right. And it'll get very interesting when something does happen, and we'll all have to see how it lands.
Well, how it lands, because it's interesting that no one's been through Mrs. Miggin's greenhouse yet and destroyed her prize crop of whatever. There's been no big claims, because I would have thought that would have been more likely than anything else. Is that most pro prices in the UK are flying an Inspire or cheaper, so that reduces the scale of claims, says Ian. So yeah, it's well, I suppose the biggest claims would be just up the road from you, because they've lost several watchkeepers in York. So there's someone who must have paid for those. So those are going to be the biggest accidents or incidents in the UK, I should imagine. Right. So with that, because look, it's late. It's late, everyone. It's late. Jonty, thank you very much. Please.
It's been a pleasure, and I'll keep you guys updated.
Please do, and I'm sure more questions will be coming. If people have got questions for you or want to reach out to you directly, how should they find you?
So there is a dedicated email address if anybody has any questions around where it is. So if they can send an email to go on the Lake Victoria website and follow the emails there to the question page. There's a whole platform to manage it. There's a whole ticketing system. But if anybody connects with me on LinkedIn, just search for Jonty Slater and a thing. And if anybody really wants to connect, Gary will give you my email address and give it out. But yeah, go to the Lake Victoria website and follow the links to the competition there. And if anybody's interested in attending the expo happening in December, then there's that. We are going to be running another competition. Just a quick update: we're going to be running a competition not for drone systems, but for service industry around servicing drones, and that's going to be another competition that we're going to run as well. So we do see that being another part of the whole process.
Hang on, you've got to unpack that. Hang on, what do you mean the service industry? What does that?
So people servicing drones, people managing, supporting the drone companies that are actually going to be in there. So people like drone pilots. People coming up with training programs, all that kind of stuff. What we want to see is supporting the whole drone infrastructure in the local area. So we're going to be looking at if people want to set up businesses inside Neon Wanza supporting the drone program. More will come out. We've only recently got a sponsor for it, so we just need to support it further.
Breaking news! Breaking news.
Exactly. We're going to more information coming soon.
We like that.
But yeah, if anybody's more interested, look at the website.
Perfect. And Ian, thank you very much for the other Ian, as we should call you, or Ian 2. Thank you very much for almost Ian, or something, I don't know. Thanks very much for telling us about the Herelink, and I should put, I don't know if I did put a link in below. I'll put a link below to Herelink, and unfortunately Philip's on to India right now, so we couldn't get hold of him. So thank you for joining us.
Hopefully we're waiting on the firmware now. I think it's any week. He's hinted that it was around end of March, April. So hopefully the release firmware and the product will be hitting the streets properly then, because it still is in beta today. So hopefully it won't be long before people can get their hands on it properly. It'll be nice to see what the final software looks like as well.
Absolutely. And for other Ian, real Ian, watch back at the beginning. I said I revealed something. We both inadvertently revealed something, and that you all like the other Ian. And to Nicola, thank you very much indeed in your late disconnected world of F-22 flying. Don't forget Archangel RC is the channel you want there. And to Bruce, if you had to be watching Dear Sir Bruce, he's not very well. We all know the illness he has. He's struggling with it today. Well, one of the many illnesses. But anyway, the headline one. So get well soon, mate. We'll look forward to seeing you next time. And dear viewers, thank you very much. Don't forget 2100 GMT every Tuesday. Cheers for now. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Where's my mouse? Your mouse is gone. There we are. Cheers.